believe we're live Wednesday, May 29th. 9-game slate tonight. I'm excited to not have to sift through 14, 15 games or however many we decide we want to have, depending on the site. Everything was up in the air. The slate was what you wanted it to be yesterday.
What time did that game end up starting? Like, what happened on FanDuel?
I have no idea. I think early, like really early.
Okay, so they didn't count on FanDuel?
No, to my knowledge, no, but I don't have an idea. I remember getting the Alex Gordon 3-run home run alert like pretty early, and I was just like, damn, like, do I have Royals? Because I had already forgot everything that I prepared. I was just like, I feel like today was a day where they weren't highly owned and I was getting a lot. And then I opened up my sheet. I was like, oh, yeah, dumbass. They're not even in your player pool. Like, they're fully removed from both.
You didn't have a lineup or anything?
No, I did nothing. So, yeah, as far as I know, nothing happened in that regard. I'll pull up lineup study right now. Did you see any of like the top lineups from yesterday and how just gross they are?
Yeah, I saw on DraftKings and like the $10. I looked because I was like, what the hell is winning a tournament tonight? And yeah, it was pretty ugly. At first, it was like a 4-man, at least last time I checked, it was like a 4-man Houston with like 2 Marlins and 2 someone else.
Brewers.
For Ganondorf. But at first I didn't even realize that it was stacked. Like I missed the 4-2-2. And I'm just looking at the names and I'm like, what the hell is this lineup of one-offs with like Garrett Cooper and like Jack Mayfield and shit in it? Yeah. But then I realized at least it was like stacked and made some sense.
Only 2 lineups crested 180 points last night. On the first lineup, it was the winner was Boyd Rich Hill at pitcher. The second place guy was Boyd Sampson with no stack whatsoever. Full on, wide open, just whoever. I mean, the stack is Boyd plus whoever hits second for the Tigers. Otherwise, it's wide open.
Yeah, actually, I think I saw that one too.
Grandal, Freeman, Panic, Bregman, Turner, Meadows, Kristen Stewart, Schwarber. Full on lineup of one-offs.
I don't hate it.
Took second for 10K.
I mean, with the way the ball flies now, I don't hate it. I still think that, obviously it's tougher because you have to get a lot of stuff right that is not correlated. But I definitely think it's a more viable strategy now than it used to be.
I mean, it's viable when no team breaks free.
Right. I think that
it'll basically never win on a day where a team goes crazy.
Right. And that's where it still gets tough because you get, like yesterday was however many 12 games or whatever. Like normally you're getting some teams that go nuts. And even yesterday, like some teams scored a lot of runs. It was just that they didn't do it in an appropriate way for DFS.
Yeah. Some of it, like, you can tell how ridiculous the slate was by looking at stuff like this. The aggregate ownership for the 4th place lineup was 45.1%. 6th place was 32.9%. Clayton Richard in the 6th place lineup with 6.8 points and a 1.9% owned pitcher. It was basically just the whole lineup is unowned. And that was enough to, 2 guys sub 1%. Conforto at 0.8, Mazzara at 0.6.
Speaking of Mazzara, so on Yahoo yesterday, I actually had a 6-man Texas stack with Giolito, Price, Goldschmidt one-off. Didn't have Mazzara, didn't have Guzman. So I was getting like really excited because I knew I had it and I saw the score. I'm like, oh man, nobody else has this. Nobody else is scoring. Like I'm probably like winning on Yahoo. And I looked, I was like, oh no, I just have all 6 players that suck on Texas.
It's a different stack for everything at the top. Astros, then whatever you want to call that Tiger stack. 2-man Cubs, 4-man Marlins. Then you get to a big Astros naked stack. Oh, the number 6 lineup was the full-on unstacked start to finish, just like that Tigers lineup. I mean, yesterday would have been a really good day to let Katie make all of my lineups because that's what. And I don't mean to like dumb it, but like she wouldn't have put together anything that I would have put together, which would have been more viable today or yesterday. Yeah.
So talking about the aggregate ownership of some of those top lineups, I know how I approach it, but I don't think I've ever asked you. In NBA, you and I had both kind of realized that we were making a lot of dead lineups that just didn't have enough ownership. Yes. Do you factor that in for baseball, or do you kind of just
ignore it now?
Okay, yeah, so do I.
Yeah, it plays no role whatsoever. The ownership of like other teams in my lineups matter, but in this one, I'm not trying to like raise the floor like we were doing before.
Yeah. Yeah,
because
reason
because of
being that,
opportunity.
right. Well, yeah, and like chalk is chalk for a reason in baseball, but chalk just fails more. Like basketball, chalk is chalk for a reason, and you really are like most slates, you're hurting yourself if most of your lineup isn't popular plays because those are pretty much always the best plays. But baseball, it's like you're not really hurting yourself because they are all going to fail a ton of the time.
Yeah, like, well, not to mention, if you want to play the Marlins, who are very clearly the worst offense in baseball, they're still going to get 35 plate appearances or something like that, no matter what. If you want to take all 1% guys in the NBA, they might not play 35 minutes combined.
Right, exactly.
So,
good point.
It doesn't matter all that much in that regard because they're going to get the opportunity. Now, they're not as good, whatever that amount you want to have them relative to the field, like that matters in a way in terms of how quickly you'll jump to the top, but everybody gets to play. So
yeah, good point.
So I didn't I did do that immediately for day 1, day 2, and then I was looking at it and I was like, hold on, why do I care about this right now? And then that was the day that I just wiped it out completely from my.
The only reason I've considered doing it, and I haven't done it yet, it's something I probably should play around with and rewind just to see how my lineups look, is because I factor in, and I think you do too, I factor in some weighted projections on like leverage team. And so I think what happens sometimes, and I'm trying to find ways to get around it, but what happens sometimes is I'll get like an unpopular low probability stack, but then instead of having just really good one-offs with it, I'll have like one-offs that are also really low probability, and it's just okay, well, I don't need this team to be this contrarian. So that's like the one spot where I've still found that I'm having some issues. I think I'm correcting it somewhat so far, but that's something I need to at least figure out.
Yeah, and I don't even know if that is a problem. It feels like it could be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that like the one-offs are still also unowned.
Yeah, no, I mean it can still work out, but like if I'm taking, I mean the obvious example for me was the other day, the last 4 game slate we had when I knew I wanted to leverage against the popular pitchers, and so I had a ton of Kansas City and a ton of Milwaukee, but they were just all jammed together instead of being with like the more instead of being with some other teams. But it on like larger slates, let's say you have that Miami stack at 1%, and I'm getting expensive bats in there. I want to be preferring Cody Bellinger to whatever $5,500 not as good as Cody Bellinger bat there is.
Sure.
So I think that's where I could probably improve. I just haven't figured out exactly how to go about it.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're really saying is in those one-offs, I want the best players.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily matter what their ownership is.
That's
I just want the talent.
Right.
If they're owned, great. If they're not owned, also great.
Yeah.
But
so basically,
they're probably owned because they're good.
Right. And so like whereas basketball, you would be making the assumption that the best players are highly owned. Here, it would be kind of using ownership as a proxy to hopefully prioritize just really good players.
Right. And like the Bellinger example is good because he's basically never highly owned because he's 5,800 and like really difficult to get to.
Right.
But you just want him anyway because he's a top 5 hitter in baseball.
Right. Like the ideal way to do it would be like if my stack is a low probability stack, then screw randomness and just give me my top plays. But as far as I know, Cruncher doesn't have an option like that.
So that's sort of, and this is not something we've ever talked about. Man, people are getting a lot of goods right out of the gate. This is something we talked about previously where that's the perfect example of, let's say that Mets game last night started at 7:00, and right out of the gate you get like 2 dongs, a Conforto dong and somebody else, and you have that lineup. That's the spot where we should probably be going back into that lineup and swapping out everything else that's in that lineup for what you would claim to be the nuts. No one else is really going to have it.
Right. And that's something that I don't know about you. Like I agreed with you entirely when we talked about it before.
I haven't done it once.
I still don't do it.
No.
I need to find like a more efficient way of doing it. And I know you can in Late Swap Optimizer, going in, and I'd even kind of figured it out and told you like how I had approached it and it worked. And then it was just like, okay, that was fun.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. That's definitely something that you should be doing.
Yeah. If you're, I don't even know how else to say it, but like if you've got a really low owned stack that's doing well, you should evaluate the other pieces in that lineup the moment that it starts to do well, because you're not necessarily trying to be unique any longer. What you're then doing is trying to maximize that individual lineup. You've got information since the game started that you didn't have previously, and you probably need to switch into different plays to increase that ceiling. And I don't know if anybody's doing it. I would guess some people do, but it's something that never gets spoken about.
The one spot that I haven't figured out exactly how I'd want to approach it is, let's say, I don't know who's playing at 7 o'clock tonight. Let's say the Phillies are at 7 o'clock and they're low owned and they score, 8 runs in the first inning. I haven't decided, do I want to just basically optimize my 5-man naked Philly stacks, or do I want to be blowing up my 5-3s and 4-4s at that point?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a little bit would probably depend on how much you have.
Right.
If it's 3 lineups, then you're probably just trying to get your 3 best. But if you have like 9% aggregate Phillies and they're 1% owned as a team, I would guess you would probably just want to do both the same way that you would start off your crunches. A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah, because like the way that I was doing it originally was kind of just going in this to late swap optimizer and seeing, how many guys were locked. And once I had enough guys locked where I could just put in one-offs, I was doing that.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
There you go. Little tidbits that Adam and I talk about in Slack that ultimately we forget about and don't move forward with, even though we both agree that it's a great idea.
It's one of those, I haven't had a night yet, at least that I've noticed, where it would have made a difference.
Yeah.
But I know that eventually it'll happen and I'll be really pissed at myself.
Yeah, you go back and look at it and you're just like, did I really need 0.7% so-and-so, the number 8 hitter, when I could have just swapped into like 2 decent guys?
Yeah, I mean, like I manually swapped one lineup last night because I had like a 5-man Cardinal stack. Or I had like I had a 4-3, and everyone was locked except for my one-off. And it started off really well. And I had like Steven Piscotty as my one-off. And it was just like, okay, well, that's now going to be Kike Hernandez because it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Paying attention to that is really, it should be something that everybody's doing. You should not be doing what I do, and that's sitting down and watching Netflix from 7:30 to 8:45 and then going to sleep before most of the games have already had their first pitch. Sometimes you should do it differently. I know what to do. I'm just really bad at enacting that myself. Laziness, I guess. Anyway, we've got a slate to talk about. 9-gamer here. We'll get the plugs out of the way to start. MLB Strategy is the promo code. 50% off your first month with us. Any monthly package you choose, including packages with Fantasy Cruncher. If you're looking to check us out, go ahead and use that promo code now. It's really weird watching you take a sip of your coffee because you didn't like hesitate. It was like clean visually on the screen.
I didn't miss my mouth, didn't spit it out. Everything went well.
Yeah, like that's the problem with when you did do that. It wasn't as clear as I would have liked it to be, and now it's just perfect.
Yeah. Actually, when someone had made it a GIF on Twitter, and I tried to grab it, and I was going to just make it like my Instagram story because I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But you couldn't even see what was happening, so I was like, that's not going to work.
Just knowing what happened was like the key for me.
Yeah.
The new laptop paying dividends. I also dropped in the link for a certain DFS site that we have a lovely relationship with, Yahoo Sports. If you'd like to sign up, go ahead and click that link. It helps us out a lot. It doesn't change anything for you guys signing up through the link, but if you want to help us out, we would really appreciate it. Yahoo is the presenting sponsor on this show and on the Deeper Dive and on the Early Bird podcast. Yahoo 10 Max site. We've been eschewing the virtues of these guys for a couple weeks now. Once again today, $3 to get in, $6K guaranteed. You get $600 to first. No management fee whatsoever. And you can see right here, I have it on the screen. They already have 1,500 of the 2,000 entries already filled. This one's filling really, really quick every day. We can't stress this enough. If you are looking to play anywhere at all, if you're trying to get your foot in the door in DFS, or if you just want to play a little bit more volume, this tournament right here, this contest, MLB 6K guaranteed, no management fee. It should be the first $30. If you're spending $30, this should be the first $30 you put in. You won't find a better contest anywhere in the industry. Just do it. And you have got not a lot of time. I would guess this fills in the before lunchtime. So get there quickly because it'll fill. Not that the rest of the contests aren't great. They have lower management fees, but everything is going to be 10 entry max. You're not competing against 150 other lineups from other pros, so it's going to be a much more enjoyable experience. I could almost guarantee it. There we go. Dunzo. Let's do 9 games. Do we have any weather issues off the top that you know of?
Yes and no. Nothing right now that is like, a washout or anything, but there are some potential weather issues in the Philadelphia game, some potential weather issues in the Colorado game.
Okay. We will touch on those as we go, but again, the best that we can do in the morning is just give you an idea of where weather will be. Tune back in for the deeper dive and live before lock when we actually have information, an hour before first pitch.
Also, as far as weather goes, if you don't, and I do recommend just listening to, who your favorite weather tout, because
that would be Alex Baker.
Yeah.
Follow Awesemo Weather.
Obviously my favorite. But also if you're just looking for it on your own, I think the Dark Sky app, it works really well for me. It's like $3 or $4 a month, but you get actual good detailed, instead of it just being 100% rain, it tells you how hard, when it's starting and stopping. It has radar. If you were looking to do it on your own, that's what I would recommend.
You pay monthly?
I think so. I got it a long time ago.
I might have had it. I might have just had this for so long that I paid and I'm grandfathered in.
Yeah, I've had it for, I don't know, a year or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've had it for years.
Like most subscriptions on my phone, I have no idea what I'm paying for.
Yeah, that's where I started thinking, shit, am I paying for this, monthly? Because I don't care to.
Yeah.
I've done that. I've been not meditating with Headspace for 6 months now.
I was just say, assuming I am paying $4 a month for it, I guarantee it's not the dumbest thing on my phone I'm paying monthly for.
Yeah, every single month I get the pop up being you have, from PayPal, you have paid $10.99 to Headspace LLC, and it's just shit. I didn't meditate once.
My problem is I throw all that stuff, or I throw so much of that stuff on random credit cards that I don't even look at the statement, and I just pay it.
Yeah, trust me, I'm feeling the same way. Alrighty, Phillies and Cardinals. 5.6 run implied total for the Phils, 4.5 for the Cards, 61% chance to win for Philadelphia. Aaron Nola going for the Phillies, which is super normal. Genesis Cabrera going for the Cardinals, which only thing I could think of from only Genesis I know as the girl that was on Real World Chicago back in the day. So I don't think it's her starting for the Cardinals. Let's be clear here. Talk to me about Nola to start. He is $47 on Yahoo, $8,900 on FanDuel, $9K on DraftKings.
Pretty scary spot for him as far as the Cardinals being a good offense, but it is a right-handed heavy lineup, which is nice. He is at home, which generally, benefits him. Hit along with most of the Philadelphia starters, you see strikeout totals tick up there. So I think it's kind of intriguing. For the season, he has been better against righties than lefties. He's been getting absolutely blown up by lefties, but even with his struggles this year, a 301 WOBA, 126 ISO to righties with a 26.4% strikeout percentage. His expected numbers are a bit worse, 330 expected WOBA, 157 expected ISO, but those numbers still aren't terrible. Whereas lefties, he's just getting absolutely destroyed, but mostly right-handed heavy lineup for the Cardinals. So, I think Nola is a decent mid-range option.
Okay. What in the world? Okay, that makes a ton of sense. Pasted ownership projections into the player projections tab in my sheet, and nothing updated. And then the column of Alex's stuff was just super wonky when I looked at it. Couldn't figure out what was going on. I'm just a moron. Nothing that anyone doesn't already know. Wanted to take a look. Have you looked at ownership or anything yet?
I have it up. I haven't looked at it.
Okay.
So Nola 25% on DraftKings.
Yeah.
Highest owned pitcher behind Bueller, Snell, and Lopez.
Yeah. All of those guys standing out as pretty clear quality options for me. I'm a fan of Nola, especially at that price. I'd probably have a little bit more interest in Kevin Gausman or Robby Ray to just pay down a little bit further if Nola's going to be chalky. But it's nothing where I'm trying to avoid him. He's still good, and there's still a lot of strikeouts. Still kind of a lot of strikeouts at the top of the Cardinals lineup. On FanDuel, Nola 8,900 getting 15% expected ownership. Makes sense to me. I expected him to be more popular than Syndergaard, who's $200 more expensive than he is. Syndergaard with a much more difficult matchup with all those lefties for the Dodgers. So all of this looks exactly like how I would have expected it would look.
I did just find one stat on Nola that I actually hadn't realized. So two of the stats that I really like looking at to kind of try and gauge how pitchers have actually been performing and maybe kind of predict how they're going to do in the future are called strike plus swinging strike percentage, which I talk about a lot, and PCRA, which is a stat I found out about like 2 weeks ago and I really, really like. In PCRA, Nola hasn't been great. Like, he hasn't been bad, but he ranks 49th out of qualified starters. But in called strike plus swinging strike percentage, which I think is really important for Nola, and especially because if you look at his swinging strike numbers this year, they haven't been that good. He has a 10.3% swinging strike percentage against righties, 9% against lefties. So that could lead you to the conclusion that his stuff isn't very good this season, especially because he's been getting hit a bit harder. But he's 11th out of all starting pitchers this year that have thrown at least 750 pitches. And it's a stat that stabilizes around 800 pitches. So that's why I use 750. Out of those pitchers, he ranks 11th. He's between Matt Boyd and Kenta Maeda with a 32.2% called strike plus swinging strike percentage. So getting a lot of called strikes in addition to his swinging strikes.
Do you get any royalties for pushing PCRA?
No, and I probably should stop because I think it's better than whatever everyone else is using.
Yeah. That dude, I'd love to know if he's seen an uptick in traffic or people searching for it. Like, it gets talked about a lot. I don't mean it like it shouldn't or anything. No. That's not what I'm trying to say.
It's really hard to say though, so I feel like people like don't even understand the letters that I'm saying.
Well, it sounds like you're saying peace RA.
Right. Yeah. Like I try and like slow down and enunciate, but it never sounds like it should.
Those 4 letters just don't go together naturally. Yeah. They just don't. Got the question: how's the Herman Miller chair treating you? It's pretty good. Pretty good. I prefer my wife's at a significant discount, but I'm not gonna like ship a chair back. That's so much work. If they'd come and pick it up and give me the other one, I'd probably do that. But I'm not gonna like put it back in the box. It came in a box that like a coffin. Anyway, Genesis Cabrera. Give me all of the Genesis Cabrera hot takes you have.
He's not going to be up very long. He's going to be going back to the minor leagues because he's not as good as Daniel Ponce de Leon or probably other pitchers that the Cardinals have. But he was already on the 40-man roster, and so I think he's just temporarily up. They got him in the Tommy Pham trade. He has a problem throwing strikes. He has not had a walk rate below 10% since AA in 2017 when he was at 9.2. He's not had a walk rate below 9 since 2015 in rookie ball with the Rays. So facing a Phillies team that's really, really patient and works deep in the counts is pretty terrifying for a guy that doesn't throw strikes.
You don't think today is the start of an illustrious career? Perhaps the genesis?
I feel like I'm doing a show with EMAC right now.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, you should. But no, I mean, I feel better about Genesis Cabrera future prospects than I did about Nick Margevicius future prospects, but that's not saying much.
Better Genesis Cabrera or Sega Genesis?
I never had a Sega Genesis.
Ooh, really? The Super Nintendo guy?
Yeah.
I never had a Super Nintendo.
Okay, yeah. No, that was my first system. But anything with Sonic is better than this guy.
Yeah, that I agree with. It's the only system I never had. Like back in the day.
Yeah.
For some reason I just never got Super Nintendo.
Yeah. No, I mean there were plenty I didn't have, but I went like Super Nintendo to PlayStation to PS2 to like Xbox.
Any Dreamcast in there?
No, I never had N64 either.
I got that later in life, so I count it. Didn't have it live at the time. Okay, let's talk bats here. Phillies stack getting a little bit of love that should not be terribly surprising considering their matchup. Second most expected ownership on DraftKings right now. They are third on FanDuel. They are number 1 with a bullet on Yahoo. Talk to me about the Phillies. How much do you want to stack against Genesis here?
I like it because he's a pitcher who, like I said, he struggles to throw strikes. And pitchers like that in general, I prefer. Like if I can only choose stack or one off, I would rather stack because you don't want your one offs getting walks. But if you put 5 of those guys together and you're getting extra base runners to drive in, then it obviously correlates really well. So I like the stack for that reason. I like the fact that there's a lot of right-handed power in the Philadelphia lineup. I like that there are a bunch of guys that will walk and will drive up this pitch count. The Cardinals bullpen's been middle of the road as far as active roster in xFIP. Not a great spot, but not a terrible spot. If the Phillies do get a lead, then they at least avoid Jordan Hicks at the back of the game as well, who I'm sure is one of the driving is kind of artificially keeping this xFIP lower than it otherwise would be. So yeah, I like the Phillies.
Yeah, same. They are my top stack on DK right now. I always like McCutchen. Getting him against, a not great lefty doesn't hurt. It even makes Segura look mildly playable compared to where he normally is, at least to me. Hoskins is in one of the better spots of the day. Real Muto, one of the better options at catcher for the day. I have no problem getting to Phillies, whether they're popular or not. This park is fantastic. It checks off all the boxes that I'd like. That's for sure.
Yep. Any
interest in Cardinals bats against Nola?
Not a ton. I do still like Matt Carpenter. He's still cheap, and Nola has been getting blown up by lefties this year. Carpenter obviously is not off to a good start this season. I don't buy into, or obviously don't look at small sample size stuff, but if you wanted to look over the last couple of weeks, his expected stats are a bit more promising. He has like a 350 expected WOBA against right-handed pitching, like a 200 ISO. And then obviously if you go to a larger sample and look, since the start of last year, he's still been excellent against right-handed pitching. So I still believe Matt Carpenter is good at hitting baseballs and is probably underpriced in a park that plays up power.
Can't disagree with you there. I don't mind those first 4. Well, I guess first 5 with Carpenter. Like Fowler leading off, Goldschmidt, DeYoung, Ozuna. Those guys are good. I have no problem getting away from it. What?
I'm never opposed to stacking the Cardinals.
No, neither am I. It's a really, really, really good lineup.
And so like they have a lot of talent, but also when you think about the skill sets of most good pitchers, like the pitchers that you would be hesitant to stack the Cardinals, they still match up well because they're a team full of excellent fastball hitters.
Yeah.
Nola obviously has the really good curveball that he uses, but it just makes them a team that I stack kind of indiscriminately.
I'm with you, man. I don't expect to get anything, but I would not freak out if I did. I think we can move on to your Orioles. 5-run implied total for the Baltimore Orioles. Are we just adding like multiple games together or what here?
Ryan Carpenter makes weird things happen.
Yeah, 4.4 for the Tigers. It's 55% chance to win for Baltimore. Probably because John Means on the hill for the O's. Ryan Carpenter going for the Tigers. Means no ownership. Ryan Carpenter, no ownership. Will Adam have any ownership to either of these guys?
Possibly.
Nope, it's Carpenter.
I had like 16% Carpenter the other day when he actually had a good start.
Okay.
I wasn't happy about it, but I had it. So it's one of those where at this point, I don't know. It comes down to ownership at 6:30 tonight and, and several other things. But I do think it's a favorable matchup for both guys. The Orioles' active roster since last season has the second highest strikeout percentage against lefties in baseball. Carpenter is not good at all. I think he's terrible, but he's $5,400 on DraftKings, and I tend to roster pitchers in that price range quite a bit. So that's all I have to say about him. Means is the more interesting of the two. The strikeout percentage this season is only about 18 or 19%. That is a number that I think maybe in the future improves. He does have 2 good pitches. Like if you look at the new Baseball Savant data and the movement on his fastball and his changeup, he's got 2 of the better pitches in terms of movement in baseball. And I think that eventually translates to more strikeouts. The Tigers are a team that does strike out a lot. They have a lot of right-handed hitters. Means has a good changeup that can help to neutralize those guys. Against righties this year, he's been decent. He's allowed a 338 expected WOBA, 182 expected ISO. Only struck out 15.5% though. So knowing that strikeout percentage is a statistic that stabilizes quickly and that it's the best predictor of future strikeout percentage, even more than the stuff that we like to talk about, like swinging strike percentage and stuff like that, it makes me hesitant on Means just because he's not striking guys out for whatever reason. But I do think that he's at least appealing enough where if we're going to get him in no ownership, I have some interest in tournaments.
It should come as no surprise that I will not have him. Not that like the Tigers are any good, because they're certainly not, but 9 straight righty bats is probably not going to be fun for a guy that's really not striking people out. He's got a 473 Sierra right now. He's been leaving extra guys on base, which is helpful. Kind of the opposite of, well, he only threw 3 innings last year, so it doesn't really matter. BABIP's been favorable. It's just, he's 6,900, which is nice, but I can't advocate for it today.
He's someone that I just think in the future could put it together and be good, but
he's going to dominate independent ball. Couldn't figure it out. Ruined the joke.
Yeah. But I mean, right now it's just he's a guy. And when you look at the slate, Pablo Lopez is $300 less facing the Giants.
Yeah.
That's a spot that I would rather get to. Reynaldo Lopez is $1,000 less. I'd rather get there.
Yeah, both of those guys are getting a lot of ownership, but like with good reason.
And I guess it comes down to also, if I'm going to take a pitcher that I have no confidence in just because he's low owned, I may as well save $1,500 and go to Carpenter.
That I agree with. I would much rather just have Carpenter and the money than go to Means. Also, I could have given this take a week ago without having any of the information, and I probably wouldn't have sounded any different.
Yeah.
So stacks in this game, which I think are very interesting. On FanDuel, the Orioles are the chalk by a mile. On DK, they are 5th. On Yahoo, they are 2nd. So let's start with your O's bats here against Carpenter. What stands out to you? Do you mind the chalk on FanDuel? Do you want to get a lot? They are expensive on DraftKings. Whew.
Yeah, I was going to say on FanDuel on a 9-game slate, I don't think you need to be like prioritizing Orioles chalk just because it's a good spot against Carpenter and the Tigers bullpen, no question. But they're just not that good of hitters that, they are going to come through a huge percentage of the time. But I do think that the price tags on DraftKings make them really interesting because of how expensive they are. It's going to be tough for people to, justify getting to $5,000 Nunez combined with $5,000 Mancini and $4,900 VR. And so I think that drives down ownership in a spot that does have a lot of upside. Good hitting conditions, good hitters park. You have power with Mancini, Nunez, some pop with VR. You have power with Keon Broxton against a pitcher in Carpenter who doesn't strike guys out. That plays to Broxton's strengths since he strikes out like 36% of the time.
Yeah.
You get DJ Stewart in there, who's a pretty decent hitter. I think where you can get them lower owned, it's more appealing just because of the talent of their lineup. They're not a high probability stack no matter who they're facing because they just aren't that good. But they certainly have upside here against Carpenter, who I think is one of the worst pitchers in baseball, and the Tigers bullpen, which I know is one of the worst bullpens in baseball.
Steve Wilkerson being 4K on DraftKings and hitting potentially 8th should be some sort of illegal.
Yeah.
Ooh. Like, I don't even like Richie Martin for 2,800.
Right.
So that makes it a bit of a tough sell. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm intrigued to see what I get on DraftKings and if they end up popping into stuff in order to pay up to be contrarian. But, yeah. I mean, they're one of 4 teams that have a run total above 5. It might be more than that. There were 3 games that didn't have lines when I started the day. So I could certainly update some of them. Actually, it might have been 2 games.
One nice thing about them as a stack too is that is the positions they cover. Like, not only does the top of the order play different positions, but Pedro Severino probably batting 5th takes care of your catcher spot. Yeah. VR can take shortstop. Alberto can take 2nd, and then you get Mancini and Nunez at premium positions. But it makes it so your one-offs are at positions that you actually would like to roster one-offs because there's actually good hitters to choose from.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Something that I pay attention to quite a bit. So I'm glad you you pointed that out. Wow, Nats Braves total quite a bit higher than what I was expecting. No wonder Gaussman not getting that much love. I put it in at 8.5. It's 10.1.
Yeah,
that'll do it. Just wanted to get those updated because I knew I didn't have them. Any Tigers bats for you here against Means? I'll be honest and say that they grade out really well for me relative to salary.
Yeah, I mean, Castellanos is the guy for me. I'll probably get to some Tiger stacks just because the Orioles bullpen's not good and Means is at the moment mediocre. I don't know why I have to throw that in every time. It's just like I am so depressed about Orioles pitching. I have to like qualify that maybe he'll be good at some point.
He won't.
But it's a nice spot for them. They're not very good outside of Castellanos, but they are reasonably priced.
Okay. Yeah, they actually grade out as my number 3 due to rounding stack relative to salary. So that's on DraftKings. On Yahoo, they're actually my number 1. On FanDuel, they are my number 2. I'm going to end up with Tigers here. And I'm honestly really excited about it because if I were to win the tournament with a Tigers stack against John Means, I'd get a lot out of that personally. Lots of satisfaction in that one. If I'm pointing people out, Goodrum grades out really well. Leading off against John Means is always going to be a positive note for me. Leadoff hitters just in general. Castellanos, though, is like the clear, best combination of lineup order and talent. Well, there's not a lot of talent in that Tigers lineup, so he stands out in more than one way. Go Tigers tonight. I don't think I have anything else that I'd like to touch on here. I'm just trying to look at prices. I mean, Goodrum for $8 leading off on Yahoo is interesting. Lugo's not good, but he's 7. Brandon Dixon is 9. None of these guys are any good, but I don't know. Maybe Candelario will get in that lineup, and I'll really load up on Tigers. Alrighty, to the Rays we go. Rays, 4.6 run implied total. Jays, 3. It's a 67% chance to win 4. Blake Snell going for the Rays. Trent Thornton going for the Jays. Didn't know Trent Thornton was pitching until right now when I said it. Didn't even see his name before. Snell, 54% ownership on Yahoo. 34 on DraftKings. 21 on FanDuel. I mean, I don't think that we have much to say about Snell specifically. What's more interesting is sort of the pricing structure. He's $800 more expensive than Walker Bueller on FanDuel. But he's $1,400 more expensive than the second guy on DK. What do you want to do with Blake Snell? Is it different for you on a single pitcher site compared to the 2 pitcher sites?
Yeah, it's different. Well, it's different because obviously with the 1 pitcher, like I'd like to get the best pitcher on the slate, but it's also kind of tough because like DraftKings, you can get to Snell by using someone like Reynaldo Lopez or Pablo Lopez. That
the Lopi.
The Lopi. That makes your average pitcher salary reasonable. So you using that SP2 like makes it easier to get there. So it's obviously different approaches, but at the end of the day, I would just like to get as much Blake Snell as I can on any site.
Yeah, I agree. He is without question my top pitcher. You can make a case for Walker Bueller on DraftKings because of how big the gap is in salary. But Blake Snell has the highest ceiling of anybody here. Jay's K is slightly more than average in my opinion. And that's all you really need for a guy with Blake Snell sort of stuff. So
I mean, to this point in the season, the best pitcher in baseball conversation is like him and Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yep. Is it?
There's a few other, like, I think the next tier is like Sale, Strasburg. I don't know. There's a couple others.
I'm pretty sure that Tango Tiger was mentioning in a tweet yesterday that Scherzer would be the leader for the Cy Young right now.
I don't see why. Garrett. So if you look at qualified starter strikeout percentages, Cole's at 39%, Snell's at 36.5%. Then you get another drop to Sale at 33.7%, Smith at 33.2%, Scherzer 31.8%, Verlander 31.5%. XFIP, Cole's number 1 at 2.24, Snell's at 2.58, and then Scherzer's at 2.95, Strasburg's at 2.91. I think everyone else is over 3. PCRA. which I know is a stat that is not used in Cy Young voting yet. But
no, wins are still used in Cy Young voting, so they might not get to PCRA all that fast.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty incredible to look at that, though. So Garrett Cole's number 1 at 2.09. Blake Snell's number 2 at 2.2. Tyler Glasnow is 3 at 2.69. So almost a half run higher than Snell. Almost 3/4 of a run higher than Cole. You get Strasburg at 2.76. Sales at 2.83. Scherzer's at 2.86. Ryu's at 2.8. Like every stat that I look at, these guys are just like 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah.
And a huge drop to like the Sale, Strasburg, Scherzer, Verlander range.
So this is coming from his Cy Young tracker. He's modeled it to previous voting to find out sort of.
So you were saying like that's who would get the votes, not.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wasn't trying to disagree. I mean, all of that stuff I would clearly agree with you. I just thought it was interesting. I just remembered seeing it yesterday. So Scherzer right now would be the NL favorite. Coming in behind him, Ryu, DeGrom, Corbin, Strasburg. That would be the top 5 for the NL. And the AL, overwhelmingly, it's Verlander, then Cole, Snell, Sale, Morton.
Cole, Snell, Sale, Morton.
And then I don't know if he's having like a particularly like solid year with like, and he has 8 wins or something stupid. And then Coors pitcher deserving consideration, German Marquez.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'd put Boyd and maybe Bieber ahead of Morton.
Yeah, I haven't looked at anything. I'm just totally going by that tweet that I basically saw yesterday. Yeah, I'm with you though on Snell. I have no reason to think that he shouldn't be the top pitcher today. Any Trent Thornton? I assume the answer is no, just given his price tag.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the price tag. I do like the park. I don't like the matchup. He's had some issues with left-handed power, and there's some of that in this Tampa lineup. Austin Meadows is clearly overpriced, which makes him an appealing tournament option. It sounds weird to say that, but I noticed like Alex points it out a lot, and I totally agree with it. I just never really put it into words, but like looking at tournaments like that, especially in baseball where it's not like basketball, with opportunities and everything, like you mentioned. When someone's clearly overpriced but also has a ton of power like Meadows, it just makes them a good tournament play because they are going to be low owned and they have the potential to be the highest scoring outfielder. So good spot for him. Ji-Man Choi is favorably priced. Brandon Lau is okay. All those guys offer upside. And then the right-handed bats, Thornton has been better against righties, but Tommy Pham and Avisail Garcia both have power. So if you were looking to 5-man stack, it's doable. If you're looking for one-offs, I think it's a good spot to get the lefty power.
Yeah, I have a little bit of interest in the top of the Rays. I like Thornton. I can't imagine rostering him just at this price point on this particular slate. 8K is just too much for a guy that I can almost guarantee you won't see the 6th. And if he does, then he's probably having a hell of a day. Would you rather have Rays bats or Blue Jays bats as a hedge?
Rays.
Okay. There's a lot of power in the Toronto lineup, so that's sort of why I was pointing it there. Not that I think that they're any sort of like good option, but with Guerrero, it's smoke from the bad side for him. Tellez, Grichuk.
It would be Grichuk and Guerrero if you were going there.
Yeah.
And the argument would simply be, and it's something that I know we talk about in tournaments too, like if you were to take every hitter $3,500 and below on DraftKings and just look at raw power and the likelihood that they can hit 2 home runs in a game, excluding matchup, Guerrero is obviously like the top of the list. Grichuk's not far behind them.
Yep.
They just have more power than every hitter priced around them.
Yeah, that's why I won't mind getting a little bit on the opposite side of the Jays because they're not empty bats.
Right.
Like the power can be there. If this were a different team, it's no interest, but I'll never pass on power. I'm not saying that I'm going to roster the Blue Jays in 15% of my lineups or something, but
yeah, I think both of these teams are like Austin Meadows has pretty consistently been like 1 to 2% owned at this price point, and I usually get like 5 to 6%. So it's not like I'm getting tons of Meadows usually, but I'm getting more than the field. And then you'll probably get something similar with Guerrero, where he's like 2% owned at the cheapest price tag he'll probably ever be at in his career. And if I get a little bit more than that, then I'm fine.
Don't play Vlad. He has not proven he's a lefty masher yet.
Sean V?
No. Rick C. So same vibe. Same name. Same name.
That's a new one. Normally, it's that someone's only a lefty masher, which is not a thing either. But yeah, that's a new one.
If we come to find out that Vlad Guerrero Jr. isn't a lefty masher, it's because he's not in the league. I'm confident he'll be a lefty masher, or he's just not hitting.
Or he's Justin Turner for 10 years of Justin Turner's career or whatever.
I guess, but yeah. He'll be a lefty masher. I'm pretty sure of it. Or he's one of the biggest busts in the history of sports, or in the history of baseball. Because, like,
not to mention, even if he was whatever a lefty masher is, I don't think that applies to Blake Snell. So it's not like you would ever be looking at this and being like, "Oh, it's a great spot. He's facing a lefty."
No,
like, you're literally looking at this like he has massive power, and if Blake Snell makes a mistake, he'll hit it 450 feet.
Yeah, he's either he's hitting against 1A or 1B as the best lefty starters in baseball. So, Harry, get out of this game and go to the clear, incredible offense. The always highly stacked Miami Marlins. 3.4 run implied total for the Marlins. 3.6 for the Giants. 53% chance to win for San Francisco. Pablo Lopez of the aforementioned Lopi going for Miami. Madison Bumgarner going for the Giants. I think we should probably start with Pablo Lopez just because of his price tag. I think he's more interesting. 20% ownership on the two-pitcher site, 7% right now on FanDuel. Lopez stands out as, to me, the best pay-down option. He's not getting as much ownership as Ronaldo Lopez. I think Pablo Lopez just has the higher floor, lower ceiling, just because of matchup and sort of the way that they both pitch. But I want to have some. The park is fantastic. The Giants aren't a great offense. I'm cool with being with the public on this one. I think 24% is super reasonable at 6,600.
Yeah, it's fine. Park's good. Offense isn't good, like you said. Giants offense is pretty balanced in terms of lefties and righties. Their projected lineup does have 3 lefties in the top 4, 5 overall. And one, I guess, actually legitimate thing that sucks for Lopez is that the pitcher for the Giants is good at hitting. So It's not like you get a free strikeout when the 9-hitter comes up. But, it's still a good park. It's still just the guys that don't have a lot of power. Lopez pretty average in terms of strikeouts. He, for the season, is at 22.8%, but he doesn't walk guys, only 6.4% walk percentage, xFIP just shy of 4. He's nothing. I think that he has potential to be good in the future. Right now, he's kind of just a guy that I think is good enough, especially for this price tag.
I'm going to set it better myself. Matty Bum Bums. 20% ownership on DK, 26 on FanDuel, 26 on Yahoo, 15 on FanDuel. I'll never get that smooth. I'm shocked that he's 20% owned on DraftKings. So let's start there. He is sandwiched in between Snell and Bueller. Bueller at 35% ownership, Snell at 34%. Bumgarner is the second most expensive guy there, and he's getting 20% ownership. Now, clearly I get it. He's pitching in Miami against the Marlins. Those are really great things. I'd rather just get to those other guys and I'm normally a guy that gets a lot of Madison Bumgarner. I don't feel like today is going to be that day. 9 righties in the projected lineup for the Marlins. What do you want to do here with Bumgarner?
Yeah, so it's an interesting spot because his strikeouts this year are actually up. He struck out 25%. He's only walking 4%. The Marlins suck. The first projection system I looked at had him projected really well, and I was just like, okay, well, I'm going to be cutting that back some because I'm not doing this with Bumgarner.
For reference, you don't have to talk about what you're talking about, but I have him at 18.6 for DK. Is that?
Yeah, so I've looked at a couple. Like Awesomos, last I checked, haven't been posted yet.
No,
but I looked at a couple others. What'd you say?
He's still sleeping, I'm sure.
Yeah. A couple others I looked at. One had him at like 22. One has him at like 17. The one at 22 was the first one I looked at, and I was just like, no, not doing this. But basically, I think that it's a okay matchup. Obviously, Miami's a bad offense, but what does stand out as far as upside goes is even though Bumgarner's strikeouts have been better this year, there's a pretty big split between lefties and righties for him. He's only struck out 22% of right-handed hitters compared to 34.5% of lefties. And the Marlins active roster since the start of last season has only struck out 20.7% of the time against left-handed pitching. They have a 69 WRC plus. They're terrible. I think the most likely outcome here is Bumgarner goes like 7-8 innings, gives up nothing, and strikes out, 6 or 7 guys,
Yeah.
which would be a really good start. So I think that, that's kind of how he gets there. I'd be surprised if he strikes out like 12 guys or something like that. But just with how bad Miami is, there's still upside for Bumgarner. It's just, I'd rather get to Snell. I'd rather get to Bueller. So I don't know.
Would you rather get to Syndergaard?
No.
Okay.
I thought you were joking because I hate that guy.
I know you do, but I mean, he's $600 cheaper.
Yeah.
Got to throw that out there.
4,000 cheaper.
You're ridiculous.
I'd like to get to the Dodgers.
Is there a reason? We'll ask the question when we get to the late night hammer. Bats in this game. Marlins not getting their normal chalk, which is appealing. To me, they are the worst stack of the slate. Giants, second from the bottom on DK. I don't want anybody. No one stands out as any good. I can see myself getting a little bit of the Giants just to be on the opposite side of like the heavy Pablo Lopez ownership, but I hope that I don't have anything.
I don't see myself like stacking here at all. I think that if I wanted to get leverage, Brandon Belt at 3,800 against Lopez, like he's clearly the best hitter on the Giants. And then on the other side, you have $3,700 Brian Anderson, you have $2,500 Starlin Castro, and you have Jorge Alfaro at catcher. Like those are the guys that I would be looking at as one-offs if I were inclined to take hitters against Bumgarner.
Yeah, Castro probably a really reasonable cash play, $2,500 second baseman. Even if it is Bumgarner on the other side, you get the righty-lefty, and you're spending basically no money for it. So, yeah, I don't expect to stack this game at all.
Nope.
Perfect time for everybody to hit that like button. The thumbs up will help us grow as a channel, and subscribe so that you can get alerts when we go live. Why would you want to miss anything? Later today, we'll have the deep dive. It's the second time I did it. Spags mentioned not being able to flip between like deep dive and deeper dive when trying to like say what's coming out, and now I'm doing it because he said it. Deeper dive 5 to 6 today. Adam will be back with Laffy and the boss man himself, Alex Baker. And then 6 to 7, myself and Chris Spags taking you all the way up to lock. 9 p.m. tonight, Ben Rasta, Jason Roslin talking about the Memorial PGA live before lock, so tune in for that as well. Let's see, Josh, how many times do you hit the top 10 places every day? Please let me know. Thank you. I see your site is the best so far. Well, you're right. It is the best so far. I assume you mean Alex, although I don't know. How often do I hit the top 10 every day? Not often. If it were a lot more often, I would never be on YouTube. I would just be taking poops on gold toilets and doing all sorts of having a bunch of money stuff.
I do it a lot more often than Josh does, and I'm just here out of kindness.
You still playing NBA?
What?
I've been doing a ton this lovely baseball season. Braves and Nats. 5.5 run implied. I hope you don't pick it up. It's going to make those jokes hurt.
What?
I don't need you to be top 10ing a lot and having like the ammunition to really rub it in my face. I've been good enough so far this baseball season that I've been able to deflect most of that stuff.
Oh, yeah. No. We've both been doing it this baseball season.
Yeah. Braves and Nats. 5.5 run implied total for the Braves. 4.6 for the Nats. 59% chance to win for Atlanta. Kevin Gausman going for the Bravos. Anibal Sanchez going for the Nats. Revenge narrative for Sanchez?
Yeah, of course. He's going to try real hard.
I figured. Tumultuous time in Atlanta.
Someone tweeted at me, someone tweeted at me the other day that Nicky Lopez was playing a friends and family game in Chicago.
Yeah. Good God. Oh, yeah. Dude, God, Braves Nats, man. I'm losing it today. Coffee needs to just get coursing through these veins. How do you feel about Gausman here? 5% ownership on Yahoo, 7 on FanDuel, 7 on DraftKings. I kind of like it if he's not owned.
Yeah, I'm intrigued at that ownership. It's a matchup that scares me now that the Nats have almost their fully healthy lineup back. It's not the dumpster fire that we were getting earlier in the season with all the strikeouts and weak hitters. But Gossman, has made improvements this year. He's striking out 24.5%. He's still, flawed as a pitcher. It's not like he's great or anything, but he's throwing the combination of his splitter and changeup like 40+% of the time now, which is something that anyone who digs into baseball stats and DFS has been saying he needs to do for like 3 years, and no one with the Orioles could figure it out, but Atlanta has. So the strikeout upside is at least better for him. It would purely be an ownership play, but you're getting a discount from, Walker Bueller to Gossman, from Bumgarner to Gossman, and
even from Nola, you're getting $700.
Like, he's going to come through less frequently, but I don't think it is like that much less frequently.
Yeah, I agree. I have some interest, not a lot. He's certainly in play, especially if Nola's at 20. Not that I don't like Nola, but I'd love to just get a little bit more for Gausman here. I'd love to get a little bit more Robby Ray, which we'll get to.
It's not like Nola's in a safe spot either. It's
right.
I think it's pretty comparable, like facing the Cardinals and facing the Nats. I think Nola's a better pitcher than Gausman.
Yeah.
So I think that the ownership for Nola is justified, but yeah, it's not like you have him in there facing the Marlins or something.
No, like I wouldn't want to come in with no Kevin Gausman, because it wouldn't shock me if he were like a really solid, mid-20s guy today. Any Anibal Sanchez? I can't imagine the answer is yes.
No, I really just hate taking pitchers against the Braves. They have a 5.6 implied run total, which doesn't make me feel any better about it. They have a lot of good hitters. Adding Austin Riley to this lineup, I think, made a pretty big difference too. You don't get Ender and Ciarte making an out once every 9 batters. Now you have another guy that just does nothing but hit home runs.
Man, he was my favorite part of that Diamondbacks trade too.
And Ciarte?
Yeah.
It wasn't. Wait, was Shelby Miller coming or going? He was going.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was for Swanson and Ciarte.
Yeah. Not that I didn't like Swanson or anything, but Ciarte was just like this, really quality center field defensive guy making basically no money for a couple of years. It was like 2 win players that don't get paid nearly what they should were always what I was interested in at the time. Now I realize that I didn't give a shit about Ender and Ciarte at all. How do you want to manage Braves bats here against Sanchez? Acuna looks really good to me. Yeah,
his price tag moved back up, which is good. But I like the Braves because Sanchez, I think, is okay. He certainly has some blow up potential, but he's not like a total gas can. But what is a total gas can is every pitcher that's going to be pitching after Anibal Sanchez. It's pretty incredible. Like whenever, you really notice it when Scherzer or Strasburg pitch, but without question, you're like without fail, it's 1 or 2 runs over the first 6 innings, and then just a million runs to blow the game later, like every single time. Their bullpen is just that bad, and you combine that with the fact that Sanchez certainly can get touched up, and I think it's a super high upside spot for the Braves.
I agree. The Acuna, Freeman, Donaldson trio looks really good to me. I'm happy to fill out accordingly. I don't get the sense that I'll have a lot, but I'll probably be neutral with the field. Tweet from Shams 3 minutes ago. New Orleans star Anthony Davis will meet with Pelicans Vice President David Griffin today. Anxious to see where that goes.
Yeah, I think that whole thing's really interesting. Like, I obviously understand why the Pelicans would be like, oh, cool, maybe we can keep Anthony Davis now. But at the same time, I would kind of just be like, screw Anthony Davis.
Depends what you get.
Yeah, exactly. Also depends like exactly how stuff went down in the locker room.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I mean, you just want him to stay. It's that simple. Because that's really fun.
Right. Yeah, like if he basically just like burned the locker room, then it would be one thing if there's going to be like issues there, even though it'll be a lot of new players anyway. But, if he actually handled it professionally and it was kind of the media just blowing everything up and everything's cool with the team, then why wouldn't you want him to stay?
Right. Sorry to bring in the basketball talk, but that's important. And honestly, I just kind of want to see Drew Holiday, Anthony Davis, and Zion play together at the beginning of next season. I think it'd be really fun. They can get better.
I mean, you saw it this season.
They're not comparable. Like, I can't do this Julius Randle is Zion Williamson thing. It's not even close. Any Nats bats for you? Outside of Trey Turner and maybe Matt Adams on FanDuel and Yahoo, I don't have a ton of interest.
Turner, I like at his price point. He just gives you so much upside with his steals. I mean, with his speed and whatever power he has. Rendon would be the one that I think is really interesting matchup wise, but I just don't see myself getting him in a lot of lineups because of his price.
Yeah, we would need a different Braves pitcher for me to want to pay the $5,400 for Rendon. Like, this would be a spot where if I had Rendon as a one-off in a lineup that was already doing well, I'd probably look to get off of Rendon for someone with a more advantageous matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Gaussman has had issues with right-handed power. He's done better this year because he's actually started throwing his splitter to righties. And I don't know, like, he figured out that maybe he should just throw his best pitch to everyone. So that has alleviated that issue a little bit. Rendon's really, really good. But with that kind of salary, like, you can just get, other guys.
Anybody. Pretty much anybody.
Yeah, like, I'm literally looking at 2 games right now, and you can save $700 and get Alex Bregman, or you can save $200 and get Chris Bryant.
Right.
Or you can save $1,100 and get Josh Donaldson. So I'm looking at literally 4 third basemen, and Rendon would be 4th.
There we go. Moving on. White Sox and Royals. White Sox 4.6 run implied total. Royals 4.4. 53% chance to win for the Sox. Ronaldo Lopez going for Chicago. Glenn Sparkman going for the Royals. Just don't play Glenn Sparkman. This isn't a Simpsons episode. Ronaldo Lopez, 10% ownership on Yahoo, 7 on FanDuel, 30 on DK, where he is $5,900. Do you agree that he's the best pay down option?
I guess. I kind of think it's Pablo, but
okay.
I think it's pretty clearly between the two of them.
I agree.
I have Pablo a little bit ahead of Lopez. So I do think he's a really good, obvious like salary saver SP2. But I also, and this is something we talked about in office hours for a bit last night, leveraging, and there being some pitchers that you do want to leverage against because they're popular, and others where, they're popular, but you still don't really want to be there. This is one where I would love to get to some Kansas City because Lopez still has really struggled with lefties, not striking them out, giving up a ton of power. And you have, Mondesi, Gordon, O'Hearn, like these guys have power. Lopez, if I remember correctly, and I'm double checking now, struggles to hold runners, which is a huge issue against Kansas City. I think Kansas City has monster upside here.
I completely agree, and I expect to have a decent amount of KC, especially at very little ownership. I want to have some Lopez too because I think his upside is also nice. It's just a guy that can get some strikeouts against a team that's not particularly great. So I understand it. I think Lopez is more of a GPP play, and I'd be much more likely to use Pablo Lopez as like the cash SP2 if I needed to.
Yeah. And so far this season, Lopez has allowed 6 stolen bases. Last year, he allowed 14. So at the very least, he's not great at holding runners.
I'm going to run a crunch while we're talking here just to see how much I do get to the Royals based on all their leverage. Do you have interest in anything from the White Sox up against Glenn Sparkman? I can't say his name without like saying it in a mocking tone.
Yeah. The middle of the order is okay. I mean, Moncada and Abreu are kind of expensive, but Yonder Alonso is cheap. Eloy Jimenez is cheap. I don't foresee me getting to the White Sox with a ton of frequency. Like from this game, I would definitely rather get to the Royals, but there's at least some power here against a guy in Sparkman that doesn't miss bats.
Yeah, it pretty much falls off a cliff for me below Jimenez. So if I got any combination of any of those first 5 guys, I'm totally in. No problem whatsoever. They're not really that owned. It does stink that you can't get Abreu and Alonso, but I'm happy to get a couple of those bats at the top. I don't need a lot of Charlie Tilson in my life.
Yeah, not a lot of power allowed in his time in the majors either for Sparkman. Since 2017, 621 pitches to righties, 516 to lefties, 132 ISO to righties, 152 to lefties. He doesn't strike them out, but it's not like he's been giving up, tons of homers.
Anybody else you want to point out in this game?
Just kind of to reiterate Kansas City, like how many ways they have to get there. The lefties match up well as hitters against Lopez, against Ronaldo, but Nicky Lopez steals bases, Merrifield steals bases, Mondesi steals bases, Gordon's capable of it, Hamilton obviously does. Yeah, I don't know. I think Kansas City is just actually a really, really interesting tournament play.
Yeah, right now they come in 8th of 18 in terms of my stack ranking on a dollar for dollar basis, which to me is perfect. That is just high enough where I think they'll come up with leverage and I'll get, probably close to double the field. Yep. I'm not surprised. But we'll find out in a little bit. I'm up to 230 lineups crunched, so
You should get a faster computer.
this one's faster than yours.
Ah, damn it.
Yeah, it's a desktop, so like I bought like a souped up gaming desktop.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're comparable. It helps.
Yeah, I feel better now.
Yeah, Astros and Cubs. Looks like a coin flip game, 4.5 on both sides. Wade Miley going for the Stros, Kyle Hendricks going for the Cubs. Neither guy getting any ownership, and I really don't have anything to say about either pitcher. I don't want either guy.
I don't want either guy. Hendricks is priced up. Astros, while they have a watered down lineup, they still are good enough. And Miley has made improvements this year, but it doesn't really translate to strikeouts as much as it translates to not getting blown up.
I don't like this game at all. I like the top of the Cubs order. I wish I liked more of the Astros, but this Astros lineup isn't the full Astros lineup, so there's that. They're missing, 2 studs. What do you want to do with Cubs bats here?
Not a whole lot. I mean, Bryant's questionable. If he's back, he's a reasonable option. Miley's been pretty decent this year. Baez, I think, is a pretty interesting shortstop play. He's cheaper than Rizzo. He's cheaper than Bryant. So a pretty appealing price tag for him, but not a whole lot that I think I end up prioritizing here.
Yeah, I would have on a different slate. I would get a little bit more Cubs, but if Miley's not getting any love, I have no real reason to get higher on them. I don't really like anybody below Baez, so it's Schwarber, Bryant, Rizzo, Baez. So Bryant would need to be in there, and then I'm just spending a lot of money. So
yeah, I mean, I'd throw Contreras in there as guys I like, but so if you're looking for something like appealing about the Cubs, I do think that it's the bottom of the order has some power with Almora, Russell, and Bodie, and they're inexpensive. And then you have the expensive guys at the top. It's just that I agree it's not really a slate where I see getting to them all that much because there are some spots where I think that the home run upside against the pitcher is more favorable, and then also the bullpen following them is more favorable.
Crunch is done. I'm going to refresh now just to see where we end up without really paying much attention to anything else. See if we get to any Royals. Come on, refresh. There we go. Royals. Okay, whose name isn't correct? It's got to be DJ Stewart, right?
Yeah.
I have a broken name somewhere. And the winner is... Well, still not DJ Stewart. DJ Stewart it is. See, called that one. DJ Stewart is DJ Stewart with no punctuation in his name on every single site except for Fangraphs. I got to maybe like 50% more Royals than the public. Just take a look. I got 7% aggregate and we're at 5. So I could probably crank that up a little bit and get a little bit more. And I would probably want to do that. But top 2 stacks so far, Tigers and Phillies. Monster amount of the Blue Jays. Might have to play around with that one a little bit. Not sure I want to go there. Let's move on. 2 games to go. Let's close this out. Both of them very interesting. Rockies and Diamondbacks. 5.2 run implied total for the Rockies. 5.8 for the D-backs. 55% chance to win for Arizona. Jeff Hoffman going for Colorado. Robby Ray going for the Diamondbacks. I'm confident neither of us are playing Hoffman, but I'd love to know your thoughts on Robby Ray. Under 10% ownership across all 3 sites.
Meh.
Okay.
Kind of interested, I guess. Like I don't think he's really any riskier than Kevin Gausman is at the same price point. Everything I said about Gausman applies to Ray. Like I'm not confident in it, but he certainly has the potential to be, one of the higher scorers based on his strikeout stuff. I don't love the matchup here. Like Story and Arenado obviously terrify me. The ballpark isn't good, but at the same time, you do have lefties with Tapia, Murphy, Dahl, and Desmond's terrible. Tony Walters is terrible. So it's not the worst spot.
I only got 7% of him on the crunch. I got double for Kevin Gausman, but I don't know. I'm interested. 8,200. I've stopped caring about cores, and only just want to pay attention to if I think people are going over owned or under owned. I think Robby Ray is probably a little light right now, and that's being driven by the fact that Aaron Nola is just sitting at 9K for reasons.
Yeah, so I just pulled I got some of the numbers up. Like Ray has the second highest strikeout percentage on this slate for the season. The Rockies' active roster since last season has the fifth highest strikeout percentage in baseball. They have a 356 WOBA and a 218 ISO. Like obviously, it's not a safe spot, but there is all kinds of upside for Ray.
Yeah, like it wouldn't surprise me if he is the guy you need as SP2.
Yeah,
like that should not be shocking at all. I have some interest. I'm hoping that like the lineup breaks a little bit nicer and he gets a little bit of a boost as we get closer to lock, because I'd like to get more. I'd probably rather have him than Kevin Gausman if they're comparably owned.
Yeah, I mean I would too. Just his strikeout percentage is like 6 points higher, and it's not like it's a safe spot for Gausman either.
Right.
And the Rockies probably strike out more. I mean, even against lefties, Story strikes out a lot. So it's really just Arenado and Murphy that are difficult to strike out.
So now I think we probably need to talk about bats. Monster implied total for the Diamondbacks is the highest on the slate. Rockies not too far behind. Not a lot of ownership going to the D-backs on any site. Rockies getting a little bit more love. Pricing will do that to you. Do you have a preference in these teams?
In tournaments, I would say the Diamondbacks. At least I have DraftKings pricing in front of me, and they are incredibly expensive. So I don't think can be that popular. I mean, Jared Dyson is $5,800. Ketel Marte is $55. Escobar is $57. Jones is $53.
Dude, Marte is $1,500 underpriced as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. If only Hoffman threw left-handed, because he is a confirmed lefty masher.
He's just a masher in general, man.
Yeah. So from an ownership standpoint, I don't think you can really get there. I think they're very clearly too expensive, but they're hitting in cores at low ownership, so I'm interested. On the other side, Ray is clearly a better pitcher than Hoffman, but Story and Arenado, I would roster them against any lefty, and that's in cores. Like I'll roster them against anyone in cores. So I'm fine getting there. Ray does walk guys, so there's obviously potential for him to just put extra guys on base and things to get ugly in a hurry. But Arenado and Story clearly the priorities.
Yeah, I got to a little bit under the field of the Diamondbacks. I'm neutral with the field on the Rockies. I assume that's sort of where I end up. Might see the Diamondbacks rise a little bit if I make some changes to hitting projections. They're just really expensive. I don't know what else to like. They're like unappealingly expensive. I mean, it's so much money.
Yeah, it's definitely to the point where like there's overpaying to be contrarian, and then there's just like jamming stuff that makes no sense into your lineup.
I mean, ultimately, none of it matters. If the Diamondbacks hit like three-run home runs tonight, it doesn't matter what their price is.
Right, exactly, and that's where I feel like people mess up in tournaments. Like everyone just looks at like median point per dollar projections for hitters, and their ranges of outcomes are just so different. It's not basketball, it's one swing of the bat gets you 14 points. So, and if your guy picks up 25 points, it doesn't matter what he's priced.
Yeah, and I mean it could be even significantly more than 14 points.
Right. Yeah, I mean it could be up to 20.
But what I mean is like guys on for runs. Like the whole package of it, if you have that entire stack as part of that home run, like it can be the trickle down effects to the rest of that are massive as well, and it won't matter how much you spent on like the salary will stop being relevant.
Right.
It's a lot. I mean, it's sort of showdowny in that like you kind of just need the guys that score the most regardless of salary.
Right.
You don't really think about it like that because basketball is just so wildly different. Craziness in these two sports. Favorite bat in this game? I don't know where I'm leading you. I'm just curious your preference.
Arenado.
Okay.
He just strikes out us.
It's a story for me, but I mean they're 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Diamondbacks bat? I think we have the same one.
Escobar?
His season has returned, but that is not my pick. Christian Walker. Just because he's not $5,000.
Yeah, that's true. Or if Kevin Cron's in there, either one.
Sure. Yeah, look, you're going to want to have bites at this apple because of the total. It doesn't strike me as the game that's going to get like a crazy amount of ownership. Robby Ray is probably saving that a little bit. I wonder what the Rockies would be owned if like someone other than Robby Ray was pitching.
Yeah.
All right, let's close it out. Late night hammer. It's a bit of a doozy. Dodgers and Mets. 4.5 run implied total for the Dodgers, 3 for the Mets. 66% chance to win for LA. Walker Bueller going for the Dodgers. Noah Syndergaard going for the Mets. This has to be one of the like biggest gaps in like winning percentage for a Syndergaard start. Like, regardless of what you think of him as a DFS pitcher, I mean, I don't even think the Mets are that bad, but the Dodgers are just that good.
Yeah, Dodgers are incredibly good.
Yeah. 43% expected ownership for Walker Bueller on Yahoo, 13 on FanDuel, 35 on DK. Just going to put it out there right now. I got 65. Syndergaard, 11 on Yahoo, 8 on DK, 6 on FanDuel. I only got 5% Syndergaard on DraftKings. I think we both very greatly prefer Bueller to Syndergaard, even with the ownership.
Yeah, the projected lineup for the Mets has all but 2 lefties if you include Syndergaard.
Yeah.
Against righties this year, Bueller struck out 26.5%, 258 expected WOBA, 119 expected ISO. The Mets active roster has the 5th highest strikeout percentage this season against righties at 25.4%. They have a 96 WRC plus. There's really no reason for me not to like Bueller here at his price point.
Yeah, I feel the same way. He's on DraftKings. He's probably the best pitcher because of how big of the gap between him and Snell. Like, Snell is the best pitcher, but to be $1,700 away from him is so massive that the value starts to matter a little bit. On FanDuel, where they're only separated by $800 at the top, I definitely want more Snell than Bueller, but on DK, it's close, and that savings is really nice. To get Bueller for $9,600, that's a bargain.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you anticipate ending up with any Syndergaard?
No.
So what is your main source of hating him? Let's get this on the table now.
He has no command, and
No command? Come on now. We're being extreme.
His command isn't good. Like, his fastball ends up in the middle of the plate too much. It's why it's why his BABIP, his career BABIP is elevated, and he just doesn't. It's weird because like I think he's a good real life pitcher. I don't think he's near as good as DFS sites and players make him out to be. I mean, he has like a good but not great strikeout percentage. He's at like 25% this year. He doesn't walk guys, which is nice. But again, he has a 330 BABIP this year, and it's like season after season he has an elevated BABIP because he gets ahead in counts, and then he throws his fastball right down the middle, and guys just hit little liners over the second baseman's head, and then he can't hold runners, so they steal second and third, and then the run scores. Like, he's just not that good.
He's got a really weird package of skills that don't seem to add up to like the right stuff. Like, if you just go to his Fangraphs page, you're just like, this guy's fantastic. You look at, say 26% K rate, very minimal walk rate. Like, all of the ratios look right.
But he has no command.
It's just, he's a really weird dude to dig into.
There's a really good article on Fangraphs from like 2 or 3 years ago about like why his BABIP is so high and why he doesn't make sense. And it's because he can't, he has control. He throws strikes, but he doesn't throw strikes in the right part of the strike zone.
Right. That makes sense.
And yeah, if you go back by year, his BABIP this year is 330. His BABIP last year was 320. In 7 starts in 2017, 337. In 2016, it was 334. The only reason that his career BABIP is 316 is because in 2015, his rookie year, it was 279. Like, other than that, he's just had these like monstrous, batting average on balls in play every single season. And so like stuff like xFIP is going to come in below his ERA because of that. But like, it's an actual thing that he has an issue with.
It's kind of crazy how monstrous that BABIP is. I'm going back past 3 calendar years. I just want to see if he's at the top. of qualified starters. He's not qualified. The number one is Corbin at 3. Well, Corbin and Stroman are at 317 last 3 calendar years. Do you have a quick eyeball as to how many innings he's thrown over the last 3 years?
I can in a second. Over the last 3?
Yeah. So rolling 3 years, so back to May 2016, but I mean, just eyeball it.
So he's at 70 this year, 69 this year.
Nice.
Yeah. 154 last year.
220.
30 in 2017. And then 183 in 2016.
If I switch that to 300. BABIP. So he is third among people that have thrown 300. This is starters. 300 innings in the past 3 calendar years. Any guesses as to the 2 pitchers that are ahead of him?
No.
Okay. Number 1 is a guy that was talked about quite a bit yesterday. And it'll make perfect sense when it comes out. Nick Pavetta.
Oh, okay.
Which makes a lot of sense to me. I could give you the rest of the day, and I'm not sure you get Luis Perdomo coming in second.
Definitely would not have. For anyone that's in Baseball Slack, I'm posting the article that I was referring to.
Boom. That's a benefit for premium subs. Otherwise, go Google it yourself, everybody in YouTube. We give the direct links to the peeps in premium Slack. You could use MLB Strategy, get 50% off your first month, and go see what Adam just posted. That seems like a really good idea. Okay. How do you feel about Walker Bueller's ownership on FanDuel at 13%? 21% right now going to Snell, 15% to Bumgarner, 15% to Nola if you need. Those are the 4 guys, basically.
Yeah, so Bueller's 11, Bumgarner's 97, Snell is 11.8, and Nola's 89.
Yeah.
I think it seems about right. Like, I would much rather be getting the Snell at those price points.
I agree. So we're on the same page there. Let's talk about Dodgers bats. This is going to be probably the most interesting thing to talk about on this slate. The Dodgers are 15th out of 18 in terms of hitting exposure. No one above 7% Max Muncy on DraftKings. They are not owned across the board. Yahoo, FanDuel, DK. People just aren't going there. I get the sense that you're going to do something different.
Yeah, I'm hoping I get to Dodgers. They're reasonably priced because of the matchup with Syndergaard. But there's just still, upside here because, for one, the Dodgers are really, really good. Bellinger's still really expensive, but outside of that, you have pretty reasonable price tags on most guys. Syndergaard, it's not like he gives up power or anything. Basically, what you're hoping happens is that the Dodgers just string together some hits, steal some bases on him, which clearly you can do. And then, you get 1 or 2 home runs and you get into the bullpen. But there's just so much power in the Dodgers lineup that obviously the chances of them, 1 or 2 of them getting to Syndergaard and taking him deep go up. And anytime you can roster one of the best offenses in baseball, probably at low ownership, it's pretty appealing. This team against right-handed pitching this season has the 3rd lowest strikeout percentage at 18.5%, which I think is something that kind of goes overlooked because we know that strikeouts aren't, bad like we used to think they were.
Yeah.
But when you talk about a low strikeout percentage for power hitters, it means that they're putting the ball in play and they have a ton of power. So you're just getting more like batted ball events for these guys that have a ton of power. So 18.5% strikeout percentage for the Dodgers against righties, 125 WRC plus, 217 ISO, 357 WOBA. And when you consider the ISO and the WOBA and the fact that they play in the NL West, where their park isn't a great hitter's park, the Giants' park isn't a good hitter's park. Obviously you get Coors and then Chase depending on the roof, but it's pretty impressive what they're doing this year. And so it's just a ridiculously good offense at low ownership because of a tough matchup.
Oh damn! I didn't get to it. Sometimes you just can't get to the mute button fast enough. Apologies for that one, guys. Nobody wants that cough in the ear. I hope you didn't have earbuds in for it. I didn't get to any Dodgers on this crunch, but I want to. Potentially 5 lefty bats in the first 6. Dodgers Park plays up to lefty power, so you're getting lefty-righty matchups for Syndergaard. If they're not owned, I want to make sure that I have some. I will do something to get there a little bit more. Do you think that you get to any Mets bats? I'm assuming that we're on the same page that like Conforto is the one that stands out, but
Yeah.
What does that get you?
Yeah, I was going to say Conforto would be the one that I maybe get to, but he's an outfielder, and there's a lot of those.
Yeah, I don't anticipate getting to the Mets. See, this is one of those spots where I don't need to hedge Walker Bueller because I think he's really good, and I don't think it's like all the pieces line up. Whereas there are, not that I want to have a ton of the Blue Jays, but there are some bats that I'm much cooler with when you're getting the righty-lefty matchup. If the Mets had 6 lefties in their line or 5 lefties in their lineup like the Dodgers, you could probably talk me into something.
Yeah,
but it's not going to be today.
Well, and another thing that I think is important when you talk about which pitchers to leverage against, not only do you obviously prefer popular pitchers that aren't very good like Ronaldo Lopez, but the Dodgers bullpen this year has the 4th best xFIP in baseball. The Rays bullpen has the 2nd best xFIP in baseball. The White Sox bullpen has the 2nd worst xFIP in baseball. Like that's something that obviously you get some add-on runs.
Sure. All right, so favorite stack. Let's sum it all up. Actually, I have one more thing that I want to plug. We've posted the link a couple times in the chat. I want to get this in now. We're running an NBA playoffs contest. The tweet is on the screen for you right now, but again, it is in premium chat. If you haven't seen it, follow the Awesemo NBA handle at Awesemo NBA, no underscores or anything. You can get a free year of all access for this giveaway. It is a pinned tweet on the Awesemo_com Twitter handle as well. But you have the ability to win a free year of all access and a one-on-one coaching session with the boss man himself, Alex Baker. If you get the goal is to guess the total points in game 1 of the finals. And if you are closest, you'll win a full year of all access. That's a $700 value. And that's what you get. And you get a chance to talk with the boss man and ask him some questions. And if you do that, set up the content or the coaching session after you come into Slack and ask us some of the questions that you should ask him. Because if you're coming in there with a 1v1 for that particular slate, you're doing it wrong. We'll lead you in the right direction, get you some information that'll be really helpful for you. You got to go in with loaded with good questions. Otherwise, you don't get a lot of opportunities to have a one-on-one session with the number 1 player in the world. Check it out. Check the tweet out and get a free year. All you have to do is like and retweet a tweet and then make a guess. That's about as little amount of work as you could possibly have to do. Adam, give me your favorite stacks.
I want to real quick walk back my bullpen stats because I realized I didn't have the relievers box checked. It doesn't change anything. Like the White Sox are 4th worst. The Mets and Dodgers are in the middle of the pack. I just happened to notice that the Nats had like the 4th best xFIP, and I was like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Give me your stacks. Top 3 teams today for you on DraftKings as of right now.
Hopefully Kansas City, Atlanta, and Philly.
There we go. Tigers, Phillies, Blue Jays are the 3 that came up most for me. Don't worry, guys. I'm going to push that Blue Jays ownership down a little bit. I don't need to be 4 times the field against Blake Snell. It's just not going to get me where I need to be. I'm definitely going to be over on the Blue Jays. I'm not going to be able to remove it completely. 61% Walker Bueller will help me out there, I hope. That's the plan, at least. I mentioned it earlier in the show. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Actually, we're gonna put a call to action out for the comments section. So like, subscribe, and in the comments section, let me know now who scores more points on DraftKings today, Blake Snell or Walker Bueller. I'll give you 1.5 for Walker Bueller. Who scores more DraftKings points today? Put your answer in the comments section. We'll see who's right. We'll check it all out tomorrow morning. We'll see where the balance goes. Who are you taking? Blake Snell or Walker Bueller plus 1.5?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Blake Snell.
Okay. What would I have to set that spread at for you to have more interest in Bueller?
Like 5.
Jesus, really? Yeah. Okay. So then I should move it? Should I make it 2.5? I mean, I know that's not changing anything for you, but when I said 1.5, I assume you were just like, oh, that doesn't change shit.
I I mean, I would say like 3.
Okay. Well, 3. I don't want ties.
Okay.
There's not going to be ties. I forgot these are all like decimal point numbers and stuff. There it is. We're changing it. Walker Bueller +3. We got Adam put in a sizable bet. The line moved. That's how this stuff works. You put out a guess number. You let the first couple people beat it up at low limits, and then you start raising it as you get more information. Walker Bueller +3 DK points versus Blake Snell. Don't put it in the chat. That's not helpful. Put it in the comment section after this video. Comment section will pop up as soon as we're done, which is right now. MLB Strategy promo code 50% off. Shout out to Yahoo one last time, putting the link into chat if I ever get to it in time. Let's see if that tournament is close to filling now. If you want to check out Yahoo, please use this link. It is very, very helpful. Use the promo code AWESEMO. Get up to 30 days, up to $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points. Right now, no management fee contest. $3 to get in, 10 max, 6K guaranteed prize pool. They're already up. They got another 300 since we've been on this show. They're at 1,800 entries right now. 1819. So there's 181 spots to get into. You're going to want to hustle for this. Get there. Get in it. It's not going to get any better for you. No management fee whatsoever. Adam, anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Perfect. Tune in to the deeper dive later today with the boss man himself, Alex Baker, Adam, and Laffy. Laffy will have the deep dive out in the early afternoon. Live before lock, myself and Chris Spags going from 6 to 7. And then live before lock, PGA edition for the Memorial, Ben Rasa, Jason Roslin, going from 9 to 10. They'll also be in office hours from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So if you want to get some PGA questions in before the show starts and you're a premium sub, hop into premium office hours. Thanks for joining us, guys. Jake and Laffy will be back tomorrow morning, so enjoy.